I was trapped in my best friend's family, and I didn't realize it until it was almost too late. I always thought I was one of the lucky ones. My home life wasn't great, but I had Matt. We met in 7th grade. He was the golden kid, messy blonde hair, track team prodigy, straight A student without even trying. I was background noise. Weird, skinny, anxious, always scribbling song lyrics on the edge of my math notes. But Matt saw something in me. I don't know what. Maybe it was because I laughed at his jokes without faking it. Or maybe he just liked that I didn't try to compete with him. Whatever it was, he started sitting with me at lunch, invited me to his house, talked to me like I wasn't invisible. And then, somewhere between homework sessions and sleepovers, we became best friends. His parents, Claire and Doug, were exactly what mine weren't. Supportive, present. They always remembered my birthday, asked how school was, offered to drive me to soccer practice even though I wasn't good. Claire packed me extra snacks like I was one of her own. Doug let me borrow his old guitar. It felt safe. Too safe. The first real crack happened when I was 16. My dad had just left. My mom spiraled. Matt's family didn't even hesitate. They said I could stay for a while. Until things settle. That while turned into months. Then over a year. They cleared out the guest room. Claire added me to their grocery list. Doug introduced me to his co-workers as his other son. I should have been grateful. I was. But there were moments, small ones, when something felt off. I'd catch Claire watching me too closely. Or Matt would get weirdly controlling about my schedule. If I wanted to go somewhere alone, Doug would ask a dozen questions. They never said I had to stay. But leaving started to feel discouraged. I chalked it up to trauma. After all, I was the messed up kid from a broken home. Maybe I was just not used to kindness. But kindness doesn't come with chains. One night, I got a call from my mom. She sounded clearer than I'd heard her in months. She was in therapy. Sober. Wanted to meet. Said she missed me. I told Matt. He didn't say much. Just nodded and left the room. That weekend, I packed an overnight bag. When I came back from the shower, my bag was gone. Claire smiled and said, "You're not going anywhere, honey. She doesn't need to drag you back into her mess." I froze. "It's just dinner." "You don't need her," Matt said, appearing behind me. "You have us." My heart pounded. I laughed awkwardly. "You guys are joking, right?" Doug came in holding my guitar. Calm. Too calm. "Why go back to what hurt you?" I backed away. Something in the air shifted. Heavy. Controlled. That night, I locked the guest room door. Pushed the dresser in front of it. Didn't sleep. The next morning, my phone was missing. Claire said I must have misplaced it. Doug couldn't find the charger for the spare. Matt just watched me. I began to realize this wasn't care. This was possession. And they weren't going to let me go. It was subtle at first, the way they closed off my world. No more rides into town unless Matt came along. No more unsupervised walks. No door locks. They called it trust. They called it routine. They called it family. But it felt like a cage. And it was getting smaller. Claire cooked my favorite meals, but never let me help. Doug fixed my guitar so I wouldn't hurt my wrists with long sessions, and somehow the strings always came loose when I tried to play alone. Matt took over my laptop to optimize it for school, and afterward it needed a password I didn't create. They started using the word ours a lot. Our schedule. Our phone charger. Our room. I wanted to scream. But how do you scream when nothing is technically wrong? When they say all the right things with all the wrong eyes. I tested the waters. I told Claire I wanted to visit my old school counselor, just to talk. She smiled too hard. "We've got everything you need here. You can talk to me." Doug chimed in. "Why reopen old wounds?" Matt just shook his head. "You're better now." We made sure of that. That was when I realized they didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a project. I started stashing loose change. Writing down passwords in the back of a paperback I knew Matt wouldn't read. I watched where they kept the spare keys. Memorized the garage code. It felt ridiculous, like I was planning a prison break from the nicest house in the suburbs. Then came the night I tried to leave. I waited until they were asleep, or at least I thought they were. I had my old shoes tucked under the guest bed, my coat rolled tight in a pillowcase. Quiet, quiet, quiet. I made it to the hallway. Then the stairs. Then the front door. The alarm beeped when I turned the knob. I hadn't even known they had one. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Matt got to me first. "What are you doing?" he hissed. I spun. "I'm going to see my mom." He stared at me like I'd just stabbed him. "She abandoned you." "She's trying, Matt. She's better now. And I have to try too." He grabbed my arm. She doesn't deserve you. Claire's voice was behind me. Calm. You're confused, sweetheart. We've taken care of you. Doug added. You think anyone out there cares more than we do? I yanked free. I didn't ask you to. For a second, I thought they were going to physically stop me. Matt looked like he wanted to. But something flickered in Claire's expression, a realization, maybe, that if they forced me to stay, the illusion would shatter. So she stepped back. If you walk out, she said, you can't come back. I walked out, and it nearly broke me. Freedom didn't feel like freedom. Not right away. The night I left, I made it to my mom's apartment using the emergency bus fare I'd hidden in the lining of my coat. She opened the door with red eyes and trembling hands, like she hadn't fully believed I'd ever come back. She hugged me too hard. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but something inside me had locked shut. I slept on her couch, wrapped in a thin quilt with cigarette burns. The apartment smelled like stale soup and lavender, and I clung to it like it was oxygen. I was 17, legally still a minor, technically still enrolled in school. I had no money, no ID, no phone, but I had distance. For the first time in months, I wasn't being watched. But even that freedom came with consequences. Matt started showing up at school. He waited by my locker, sometimes with coffee, sometimes just with silence. At first I ignored him. Then I told him to back off. He looked confused, like I was the one betraying him, like he was the one who'd been abandoned. Then the messages started. Handwritten notes, folded perfectly, tucked into my backpack when I wasn't looking. She's going to ruin you again. We're your real family. You weren't broken until you left. Come back before you forget who you are. I showed them to the guidance counselor. They said he was probably just struggling with the transition. I stopped eating lunch, stopped going to class early, stopped walking home the same way twice. One afternoon, I came home to find Matt sitting on the front steps of my mom's building. He didn't say a word, just held out a box, my guitar. I fixed it, he said softly. The strings are tuned right this time. I didn't take it. You're not supposed to be here, I whispered. I miss my best friend. I backed away. You miss your project. He stood slowly. His voice was calm, but his fists were tight. She doesn't love you. She's pretending again. Like always. I looked him in the eye and said, so were you. He flinched like I'd slapped him, left the guitar on the steps, walked away without another word. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. The next day, someone broke into my mom's apartment. Nothing stolen, but drawers rifled through, photos missing. My sketchbook, the one I'd kept hidden in my backpack for years, was gone. I knew it was him, but proving it? That was harder. I went to the school, to the police. No one could prove Matt had anything to do with it. No fingerprints, no cameras, just suspicion, just gut instinct. That night, I called Claire's phone. I don't even know why I did it. Maybe to beg, maybe to scream. She answered with a cheerful, sweetheart. I said, tell Matt to leave me alone. She sighed. You're making a mistake. Then she hung up. That was the last time I heard her voice. It didn't stop. Matt might have vanished from my immediate orbit, but his presence lingered, like mold in the drywall, invisible until you start coughing blood. Little things started going wrong. My school attendance record got mysteriously wiped. Assignments I knew I turned in went missing. One of my teachers swore she spoke to me after class, a meeting that never happened. I started to wonder if I was going crazy. Then came the fake social media account. Someone created a profile using my name, my photo, but none of the posts were mine. They were distorted. Half-truths. Angry rants I never wrote. Vague threats. Screenshots of old text messages with things I never typed. I reported it, but the damage had already started. A friend messaged me. Why are you dragging Matt through the mud? He's done nothing but care about you. Another. Dude, this is next-level obsessive. You need help. I tried to fight it. Explained. Showed proof. But most people didn't want proof. They wanted narrative. Matt was charming. Vulnerable. He played the victim better than anyone I'd ever seen. The counselor at school pulled me in and gently asked if I was having an episode. Said they could involve the school psychologist. That maybe it would help to step back from confrontational thoughts. I realized then, the noose was tightening again. Only this time, Matt didn't need a basement window or locked doors. He had the internet. He had sympathy. He had the illusion of innocence. And I had paranoia. I started waking up to knocks that weren't real. Dreams where I was back in that guest room, but the door never opened. I kept a screwdriver under my pillow. My mom didn't notice. She was back to working double shifts, trying to stay clean, barely holding herself together. I was alone. Again. But this time, I knew how to fight. I contacted a local digital privacy advocate, someone I'd met during a school outreach program. She helped me dig into the fake account. We tracked the IP. We collected metadata. Piece by piece, we built a timeline. We filed a harassment report. Then, I filed for an emergency restraining order. It was denied the first time. Apparently, Matt hadn't made a direct threat. That changed 2 weeks later. I came home and found a package outside the apartment door. No postage, just a small box wrapped in brown paper. Inside, a broken guitar string, one of my sketchbook pages, and a single sentence scrawled across the back. "We made you who you are." This time, the police took me seriously. They pulled Matt in for questioning. He denied everything, of course. Claimed he hadn't spoken to me in months. That he was worried about me. That I was spiraling. He cried in the station, told the officers he only ever wanted to help. They almost believed him. Until they found the drive. It was in his locker at the gym. It contained screenshots of every message. A log of every fake post. A list of my passwords, some still active. And video files. Dozens. Footage from inside the guest room. From the hallway outside the bathroom. From the backyard. I didn't even know those cameras had been installed. It felt like being skinned alive. Matt was arrested. Charged with cyber harassment, stalking, unauthorized surveillance, and possession of illegal surveillance equipment. Claire and Doug lawyered up immediately. Claimed they had no knowledge of his actions. That Matt had mental health issues, and they were doing everything they could to support recovery. They didn't mention my name once. They didn't have to, because now the whole story was public. The trial began 8 months after Matt's arrest. It was a small courtroom. Fluorescent lights. No jury. Just a judge, 2 attorneys, and a few quiet observers, including me, my mom, and 2 close friends who stuck around when everything got ugly. Matt wore a cheap gray suit. He didn't look at me. The prosecution laid it out cleanly. The surveillance footage. The fake accounts. The documents found on his hard drive. A digital forensics expert testified about the metadata, timestamps that lined up exactly with incidents I had documented months prior. The defense tried to spin it. They called it obsessive attachment, displaced trauma, even emotional confusion caused by abandonment issues. Matt's lawyer argued that he didn't want to harm me, only keep me safe in a world that constantly hurt him. The phrase, blurred boundaries of love, came up more than once. I nearly laughed in court, but when I took the stand, the laughter died. I told them what it was like, to be absorbed, to be erased piece by piece under the mask of kindness, to be loved in a way that didn't let you breathe. I spoke clearly, steadily. I'd practiced it 100 times in front of the mirror. I said one thing that made Matt finally look up. They didn't save me from my life. They stole it and tried to replace it. The room was silent for too long. The judge took 3 days to reach a decision. Matt was found guilty on all counts. Sentenced to 18 months in a correctional rehabilitation program with 5 years probation. Required to attend weekly therapy and barred from contacting me indefinitely. I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted. But I walked out of that courthouse free. That same week, I got a call from a podcast producer. She'd read about the trial and wanted to feature my story under a series called Invisible Prisons. I said no, not because I didn't want people to know, but because I was done letting that chapter define me. Instead, I turned my experience into something real. I started a blog. At first, just anonymous entries. Then longer essays. Then art. Then stories from other people like me. Teens who'd been saved by families that ended up manipulating them, isolating them, using them. We called it the Quiet Room Project. Within 6 months, we had hundreds of submissions. People began reaching out for advice, guidance, validation. And suddenly, I wasn't that kid in the guest room anymore. I was someone with a voice. My mom slipped once, relapsed for a week, but came to me crying, ashamed, begging for help. This time I didn't run. I helped her get back up. Slowly, carefully, and we built something fragile and real together. She even came with me to my first university showcase. I'd finally gotten into a graphic design program, thanks to my portfolio of work chronicling the last 2 years. One of my pieces, A Broken House with No Windows, Only Mirrors, went viral. When a journalist asked me what it represented, I said, sometimes love is a trap that looks like safety, and sometimes healing is loud, messy, and unapologetic. Matt never contacted me again. Claire and Doug sent a letter through their lawyer once. A formal apology, 3 typed paragraphs, and a signature that didn't look handwritten. I didn't respond. I framed it, though, put it in a shadow box and labeled it evidence of who I used to be. Because I'm not him anymore. I'm not theirs anymore. I'm mine. And no one will take that from me again.